We begin this final journey not with a gentle conversation, but with a declaration of total, uncompromising psychological warfare. This is not a casual listen. This is not a temporary motivational injection. This is a final, non-negotiable ultimatum. Today, you will not be offered the comfortable, debilitating lie of ease. You will not be handed a gentle, step-by-step path to superficial change. You will absolutely not be sold the delusion of effortless, instant success or the narcotic of passive waiting. Today, a singular, absolute, brutal, and essential demand is placed upon your soul, the highest, most terrifying demand you will ever encounter, because it must be imposed by you, the sovereign architect of your fate, upon the weak impostor within. Listen closely with every fiber of your being, because the man, the entity, the defeated shadow you have been forced to drag along through life, that is the enemy. That old self is not merely a nostalgic memory of past, forgivable mistakes. He is the active, current, malicious, smiling saboteur of your future. He is the quiet, grinning, psychological assassin of your highest possible self. If you are not prepared to find the necessary, final, righteous force, the necessary intentional violence, to bury him, to annihilate him completely, then I order you, stop now. Turn off this device. Go back to the familiar, predictable, mediocre, and pathetic prison that you have falsely convinced yourself is comfort. But if that primal, insatiable hunger within you has finally escalated into a deafening roar of pure, unadulterated disgust at the pathetic, settling version of you, then you must listen. Listen with the absolute singular focus of a man who knows deep in his soul that this is the final irreversible choice between greatness and eternal regret. Napoleon Hill stated a fundamental, brutal truth, a law that governs all achievement and all human decay. If you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self. That is not a suggestion. It is not an idle musing. It is a judgment. It is a life sentence. It is the inescapable verdict delivered by the cold, hard face of reality. And that sentence, you will be conquered by self, is executed every single day you choose the soft path, the path of least resistance, the familiar, contemptible path of capitulation. Our mission now is to wage war against the conqueror within. Your mission, starting in this precise, irreversible moment, is to become the relentless, uncompromising executioner of your old self. The old self is not a simple villain. He is a weakness codified, formalized, and accepted as normal. He is the man who looked at the horizon of his own capability, saw the sheer, mountainous, terrifying effort required, and made a calculated, cowardly decision to stop short. He determined that the cost was too steep, the necessary effort was too high, and the deceptive, warm, stagnant prison of comfort was infinitely preferable to the cold, necessary, demanding ascent. He is the man who pathologically confused inertia with security, who tragically traded the absolute sacred promise of his destiny for a fleeting moment of pathetic ease. He is the cumulative, shameful, inevitable result of thousands upon thousands of small, trivial, cowardly decisions made when absolutely no one was watching. He is not a personality you can forgive. He is simply a collection of lies, excuses, and psychological debris stitched together over years of profound, deliberate avoidance. This old self is fundamentally crippled by a trilogy of spiritual diseases that must be excised with surgical precision. Disease 1, the fear of rejection, the beggar's mentality and external validation trap. The old self is defined by a constant, pathetic, desperate search for external, trivial, fleeting approval. He stays small, he stays quiet, he stays agreeable, ensuring that he can be accepted by those who demand nothing, challenge nothing, and achieve nothing real. His fear of being disapproved is a force far greater, far more dominant than his divine, sacred drive to become unquestionable, undeniable, and truly great. He sacrifices the monumental self, the self that honors his own soul, for the fleeting, momentary, insignificant approval of mediocre, forgettable minds. He is an addict of consensus. He has entirely forgotten the powerful, undeniable sound of his own conviction. This search for validation is a constant, pathetic surrender. He begs for scraps of attention instead of building the empire that instantly commands attention. He is a beggar speaking to life. That man must die. His reliance on outside voices dictates his internal thermostat. He is cold when others disapprove and falsely warm when they applaud. This codependency is not survival. It is psychological slavery. You must cut the cord to all external validation. Your value is determined internally by the standards you execute, not the opinions you collect. The moment you need approval, you forfeit power. This forfeiture of power leads to a constant internal negotiation where the desires of the crowd always outweigh the demands of your destiny. You become the mirror of other people's expectations, and a mirror is incapable of creation. It only reflects. You were not born to reflect, you were born to forge. Disease 2. The terminal state of inertia and repetition, the ghost of yesterday's failures. The old self is a predictable, mechanical, deeply flawed machine programmed only for the preservation of its own comfort. He does not seek active, necessary, challenging growth. He actively seeks replication and psychological preservation of the known. He runs the same broken, destructive script, makes the same devastating mistakes, uses the same failing, tired strategies, expects miraculously different, impossible results, and then has the absolute audacity to declare himself a victim of external fate. He lives the exact same soul-crushing year 5, 10, 20 times over, and then dares to call that terminal stagnation a life of rich experience. This repetition is not life. It is a slow, suffocating, predictable process of spiritual dying. It is a profound, unforgivable betrayal of the clock, the calendar, and the cosmic gift of time. The script repeats because the comfort of the familiar failure is stronger than the terror of the unknown success. Break the script. This inertia is an addiction to the familiar failure state. It is a neural pathway worn deep, and the only way to destroy it is to violently shock the system with massive, intentional, sustained action. You must create a neural pathway of success in motion that is so overwhelming and so consistently reinforced that the old path crumbles from disuse. You must replace the comfort of the known with the certainty of the achieved. Disease 3. The treacherous language of someday. The paralysis of perpetual waiting. This is the native, corrupt, debilitating tongue of the old self. He lives in a perpetual, debilitating state of strategic delay. He constantly waits for the ideal, mythical, perfect moment, the perfect, unblemished confluence of resources, the mystical, elusive feeling of perfect, sustained inspiration, the final, perfect permission slip from the world. He perpetually postpones necessary, difficult action until the opportunity is not just gone, but stone dead, leaving him only with a neat, tidy psychological package of justified, self-inflicted inaction. That man, the phantom who waited to feel ready, to feel motivated, to feel inspired, will never, under any circumstances, take you to the summit of your potential. He was a shadow, a temporary useless placeholder, and his residency in your soul is now forcibly, violently, immediately terminated. The time is not someday. The time is now. The ideal moment is a lie. The moment you seize is the ideal moment. The universe does not reward waiting. It rewards execution in the face of uncertainty. Your readiness is not a feeling. Your readiness is the courage to begin before you are fully ready. You must destroy the mental construct of the perfect scenario and replace it with the brutal reality of immediate engagement. That is how you kill the paralyzing power of someday. You replace passive anticipation with aggressive anticipation. People cling to the illusion that by avoiding the high-intensity, necessary, righteous pain of growth, the sweat, the agonizing, difficult conversations, the loneliness of necessary work, they are choosing peace, safety, and security. They are catastrophically, tragically, eternally mistaken. They are choosing a far more insidious, slower, more agonizing, and more permanent form of suffering. Stagnation is not pain avoidance. It is the deliberate choice of a slow, quiet, inevitable, spiritual death, dressed up in the false clothing of safety. This is the ultimate disguise of misery, the quiet life. You must look into the mirror and confront the absolute, astronomical, unforgivable cost of this choice. See what inevitably happens to the man who refuses the absolute mandate to evolve. The infection of mediocrity is not external. It is built into the corrupted wiring of the old self. The old self doesn't just tolerate mediocrity, he actively, constantly, pathologically feeds it. He builds a world around himself that exists only to confirm his lack of discipline, mediocre relationships that make zero demands on his character, a mediocre job that requires zero strain on his intellect, and mediocre habits that perpetually reinforce the smallness and timidity of his ambition. He does not build a life. He is slowly, methodically building his own suffocating tomb out of average, predictable, safe decisions, brick by toxic brick. The air in that tomb is thin, poisonous, and ensures his inevitable decay. The price of safety is the loss of your own soul. The path of least resistance is the path of no return. The average man demands a discount on effort, and the universe grants him a discount on results. He is a collector of unread books, unstarted projects, and unfulfilled promises. He is the living embodiment of almost. The ghost of regret is the absolute highest price you will ever be forced to pay. It is not the external failure that truly crushes you. It is the unlived, unexpressed, wasted potential that visits you late at night and haunts your every waking hour. The most terrifying figure that will visit you when you are alone is the person you could have been, staring down the pitiful creature you allowed yourself to become because you refused the internal war. You will awaken one day, surrounded by the ruins of unfulfilled promise, buried in the shame of wasted time, and crippled by the absolute devastating knowledge that you possessed every single tool, every resource, every opportunity, but lacked the fundamental, necessary violence of will to utilize them, to seize them, to command them. Regret is not sadness. It is the moral condemnation of your future self upon your present self. It is the knowledge that the pain you sought to avoid by being soft is 100 times less than the chronic, debilitating pain of knowing you settled. The soft choice leads to hard consequences. The loss of personal sovereignty is the inevitable decay of the soul. The man who allows his fleeting impulses to dictate his schedule, his distractions to command his focus, and his raw, unprocessed emotions to govern his actions, is not the master of his own fate. He is a mere passenger, a vehicle driven by external chaos. He controls nothing. He is driven by the external, chaotic winds of social media, by cheap, momentary desires, and by the passive demands of every entity in the universe except his own higher self. You are either ascending, fighting your way relentlessly to the light, or you are rotting, falling into shadow. You must make the decision right here, right now, with cold precision. Will you be ruthlessly leading yourself with discipline, or will you passively, contemptibly follow your weakest impulses into permanent structural decay? The time for sitting on the psychological fence is over. That fence is the very definition of mediocrity and decay. The choice is ascension or annihilation. Choose your side. The man who refuses to grow is not avoiding pain. He is simply choosing a slower, quieter, more profound form of it. You must be ruthless with your own evolution. The only way to reclaim sovereignty is to implement a self-imposed dictatorship of standards over desire. The war against comfort. Comfort is the ultimate executioner of potential. It is the anesthetic that keeps you asleep while your life passes you by. It disguises itself as reward, but it is a psychological poison. You must become allergic to comfort. You must seek the friction, embrace the resistance, and pursue the difficult path, because that path is where growth hormones are produced. If it feels easy, you are decaying. If it requires effort, struggle, and pain, you are evolving. Embrace the friction, the war against distraction. Distraction is not an absence of focus. It is the active, deliberate focus on things that do not matter, things that do not build, and things that do not serve the man you are becoming. It is the thief of time and the destroyer of deep work. Your phone, your social media, your trivial gossip, these are not harmless pastimes. They are weapons of mass distraction deployed by the weak self to protect its territory. You must treat your attention as a sacred, finite resource and guard it with ferocious military discipline. Your focus is your most valuable asset. It must be protected at all costs from the chaos of the average man. Every moment spent on distraction is a vote for the old self. The war against emotional fluctuation. The old self operates on whims, moods, and feelings. He works when he is inspired and quits when he is tired. This is the behavior of a child. The new self operates on principles, schedules, and systems. Your emotions are data points, not commanders. They inform you, but they do not lead you. You must divorce your action from your emotion. The act must happen whether you feel like it or not. That is the definition of professional intensity. That is the true meaning of self-mastery. The man who waits for inspiration is a fool. The man who executes regardless is a king. The war against negotiation. The weakest act of the old self is the internal negotiation. Just 5 more minutes. I'll make it up tomorrow. That's good enough. This is the sound of your standard collapsing. The negotiation is the enemy's last line of defense. You must implement a zero-tolerance policy for negotiating with yourself. When the plan is set, the decision is final. The debate is closed. The only option is execution. Negotiation is a surrender disguised as flexibility. End the debate. Execute the standard. You do not need temporary emotional motivation. Motivation is a failure model, a psychological mirage, a fleeting chemical spike that leaves you weaker than before. You require permanent, structural standards that are built into the very foundation of your existence. Motivation is an emotion that rises and inevitably falls, leaving you stranded, helpless, and weak. Standards are an unbreakable law, a constitutional mandate for your entire life's operation, a framework of inevitability, a non-negotiable decree. The man who operates by standards does not allow himself the luxury of asking the pathetic, emotional question, "Do I feel like doing this today?" He is fundamentally detached from the tyranny of mood. He asks one single, cold, crystalline question. Does this specific action serve the sovereign man I am becoming? Is this the behavior of the man who wins and refuses to compromise? If the answer is an immediate, resounding yes, it is executed instantly, without thought, without hesitation, without the consultation of feeling. If the answer is no, it is severed instantly, without remorse, without dialogue, without a second thought. There is no appeal. There is no negotiation. There is only the absolute standard, enforced with extreme prejudice. Your standards must be the environment in which your old self cannot draw a single breath, where he suffocates, chokes, and dies a slow, inevitable death. Imperative 1. The unassailable morning, the first victory. The battle for your entire life is not won in the day. It is won before the world wakes up and before the noise begins. The bed, the alarm, the initial 5 minutes, that is the first, most critical battlefield. If you lose the fight with the snooze button, if you allow yourself to bargain with those 5 minutes of weak comfort, you have already signaled to your mind, to your environment, and to the universe that your word is negotiable, that your commitments are flimsy, that you are a weak fool who cannot be trusted even by himself. The new standard is non-negotiable execution before the sun rises. You do not wake up when your tired, weak body allows. You wake up when your sovereign standard demands the work begin. This discipline is not merely structure. This discipline is divine judgment against your laziness. The alarm is the sound of destiny calling, and hitting snooze is hanging up on your future. The discipline of the morning is the discipline of life. Win the morning, and the day must surrender to your will. Imperative 2. Zero tolerance for impulse. The fortress of focus. Your impulses are the direct, pathetic commands of your weakest identity. The spontaneous, unmeasured choice to grab the easy reward, the cheap, available dopamine hit, that is the voice of your buried past, attempting its final, desperate resurrection. The new standard is this: every single action is deliberate. Every choice is measured against the highest, most difficult, most painful, most rewarding goal. The man you are becoming is a strategist, a grand architect of his own time and focus, never a chaotic, predictable reactor to fleeting stimuli. Build your mind into a fortress and your actions into weapons. Every distraction is a thief. You must shoot them on sight. You must become allergic to low-effort inputs. Your most valuable asset is your attention, and you must guard it with the intensity of a general defending his final supply depot. The average man gives his attention away for free. The sovereign man holds his attention hostage until it produces a magnificent return. Imperative 3. Excellence is the minimum, the bar of inevitability. The old self accepts good enough work. He tolerates sloppy, rushed, contemptible execution. He seeks to minimize effort and maximize perceived outcome. The new standard demands excellence as the fundamental baseline of your existence. If you permit yourself to ship half-finished work, if you accept mediocrity in your output, you signal to your own subconscious that your standards are low, that you are negotiable, that you are a fraud who cannot be trusted. You must raise the bar, raise the standard, raise the expectation until the man you used to be chokes and dies beneath the sheer, crushing weight of your new demands. You must set a standard so absolutely high, so profoundly uncompromising that he cannot possibly climb back into existence. Your work ethic must carve your name into history, not scratch it onto paper. The quality of your execution is the direct reflection of the quality of your internal standard. Low-quality output equals low-quality internal governance. The true, deep nature of growth is not measured by what you add to your life. The true, agonizing nature of growth is measured by what you are ruthlessly willing to eliminate. You do not build a skyscraper by simply stacking new materials. You demolish the cracked, flawed, old foundation first. You grow by subtracting the rot. You strip away the soft lies. You sever the toxic attachments until only the raw, undeniable core of pure truth remains, until only pure, sovereign, weaponized strength remains. This process of subtraction is the ultimate act of self-mastery. You must identify and eliminate the 3 architects of your previous failure. The first elimination: subtract the excuse, the justification, the whining. Every single justification: I'm too tired, the competition is too fierce, I lack the resources, I am not smart enough, is an absolute, debilitating, and contemptible lie. It is a defense mechanism built by the coward in your soul to protect himself from the pain of effort and the terror of genuine responsibility. You must eliminate every single one of these excuses from your vocabulary and your mind. Until you execute the excuse, your potential remains nothing more than a childish fantasy. You must bleed out the excuses and stand tall, bare, and uncompromising in their absence. The man who killed his excuses is the man who cannot be stopped because he has eliminated his only enemy. Excuses are nothing more than a negotiated surrender. You must revoke the treaty immediately. The second elimination. Subtract the weak identity, the victim persona. Stop labeling yourself. You are not a victim of procrastination. You are not just naturally lazy. That is a victim's mentality. That is the language of surrender. You are a person who executes. The moment you claim a weakness as your permanent identity, you make it a fixed, unchangeable part of your reality. The new self claims only one identity, the executor. The one who finds a path, the one who relentlessly gets the job done, the one who endures the necessary discomfort without complaint. The victim seeks sympathy and stagnation. The executor seeks solutions and sovereignty. You must burn the victim persona beneath the mountain of your unshakable daily output. The only thing you are a victim of is your own weak decision-making. The third elimination. Subtract the limiting belief, the mental prison. You are not limited by your education, your bloodline, your background, your current financial status, or the geography of your birth. You are limited only by the mental boundaries, the self-imposed ceilings, and the false narratives you accept in your own mind. You must consciously identify and then violently shatter the false narratives you have been living under. Destroy the mental prison first, and the physical achievements will inevitably follow. Your mind is either a palace of power or a hovel of restriction. You must purge the lies inherited from childhood, from failure, and from the average people around you. Your reality is only as expansive as the belief you are willing to execute. Fear is merely a state of mind, and the only way to kill it is through calculated, irreversible physical action. You must replace the thought, "I can't," with the physical truth of, "I just did." This is the process of becoming unrecognizable. This is the vicious subtraction. The war for your destiny is not fought under the spotlight. It is not fought when the crowd is applauding or when your results are spectacular and visible. The war is fought in the darkness. It is fought in the relentless, agonizing silence of the early morning. It is fought in the brutal, lonely hour when the urge to quit is highest, when the motivation has fled, and when the only thing left is the cold, hard, unforgiving mechanism of your discipline. This is the true crucible of transformation. The average man acts when he feels inspired. The sovereign man acts when he is commanded by his standard. This divorce of action from emotion is the single most powerful shift you will ever make. You must become a professional. A professional does not operate on mood. He operates on system, structure, and contract. Your contract is with your future self, and it is non-negotiable. The old self was a slave to emotional tyranny. He was ruled by whim, by mood, by impulse. This weakness must be surgically removed. Emotion is data, not a directive. Your feelings are simply chemical signals, temporary fluctuations of your biology. They inform you, they do not lead you. They are passengers in the vehicle of your life, not the driver. The moment you allow fatigue to dictate your schedule, or fear to dictate your choices, you forfeit your sovereignty and hand the keys back to the weak man you just promised to execute. You must implement the 90-minute rule of emotional engagement. When you feel the urge to quit, when the doubt screams loudest, when the inertia is overwhelming, you do not negotiate. You do not stop. You force yourself to execute the planned action for 90 more minutes. This is not a suggestion. It is a tactical necessity. This forced period of execution allows the chemical spike of doubt to subside, proving to your own brain that the perceived threat, the difficulty, the discomfort was a contemptible lie. Action kills doubt. Motion destroys fear. You kill the emotional tyrant by acting anyway. You divorce the mood from the mission. The mission is all that remains. The war against the morning negotiation. The bed is the first and most critical battlefield. If you lose the battle with the snooze button, you have already signaled to your mind that your word is negotiable, that your commitments are flimsy, that you are a weak fool who cannot be trusted even by himself. The new standard is non-negotiable execution before the sun rises. You do not wake up when your tired, weak body allows. You wake up when your sovereign standard demands the work begin. The moment you open your eyes, you have two choices: betrayal or execution. Choose the latter with absolute righteous fury. Win the morning, and the day must surrender to your will. Lose the morning, and you spend the rest of the day apologizing for your failure. The man who refuses to grow is not avoiding pain. He is simply choosing a slower, quieter, more profound form of it, the chronic, crippling pain of regret. Growth is pain applied with precision. It is the intentional seeking of friction, the deliberate pursuit of resistance. You must become allergic to comfort. Comfort is the ultimate executioner of potential. It is the anesthetic that keeps you asleep while your life passes you by. It disguises itself as reward, but it is a psychological poison. You must seek the friction, embrace the resistance, and pursue the most difficult path, because that path is the only place where true growth, competence, and power are forged. If it feels easy, you are decaying. If it requires effort, struggle, and pain, you are evolving. Embrace the friction, demand the resistance, the unpoetic nature of ascent. Transformation is not poetic, it is not romantic, it is not comfortable. It is brutal, grueling, and deeply isolating. You must accept that the process of becoming unrecognizable is not meant to be shared or understood by the people you are leaving behind. They will call your discipline arrogance. They will call your focus selfishness. They will call your ambition madness. Their lack of understanding is the precise measure of your correct evolution. You are carving your own name into history, and carving is a messy, violent process that breaks the stone. Do not negotiate with their comfort. Negotiate only with your own standards. The war against negotiation. The weakest act of the old self is the internal negotiation. Just 5 more minutes. I'll make it up tomorrow. That's good enough. This is the sound of your standard collapsing. The negotiation is the enemy's last line of defense. You must implement a zero-tolerance policy for negotiating with yourself. When the plan is set, the decision is final. The debate is closed. The only option is execution. Negotiation is a surrender disguised as flexibility. End the debate. Execute the standard. The moment you entertain the possibility of compromise, you have already lost. The average man aims for balance. The sovereign man aims for domination. Balance is a myth created to pacify the mediocre. You must understand that any great achievement in history, any masterpiece, any empire, any breakthrough was forged in the crucible of extreme surgical, temporary obsession. You must choose your core mission and declare everything else a distraction. Your focus must become a weapon. You must treat your attention as a sacred, finite resource and guard it with ferocious military discipline. Your phone, your social media, your trivial gossip, these are not harmless pastimes. They are weapons of mass distraction deployed by the weak self to protect its territory. You must become fiercely protective of your attention, treating it as the most finite resource in the universe. Every moment spent on distraction is a vote for the old self. The principle of asymmetry. You must apply asymmetrical force to your goals. This means devoting a disproportionately large amount of time and mental energy to the 1 or 2 tasks that produce 80% of your results. The old self was busy on 10 tasks. The new self is ruthlessly focused on the singular, highest leverage task. You must become obsessed with efficiency and output, treating every minute as an investment that must yield a significant return. This surgical obsession is not a flaw. It is the necessary fuel for inevitable greatness. You must starve your weaknesses and feed your strengths until they become unstoppable. The core principle of your ascent is this: the man who negotiates with his old self has already lost. You cannot half-kill a tyrant and expect him not to seek vengeance. You cannot partially bury a weakness and expect it not to claw its way back to the surface. Your transformation is not complete until the old version of you is not just defeated, but is extinguished, eradicated, and rendered anatomically impossible. This process requires a complete psychological and spiritual separation. You must look at the man you were yesterday, the man of excuses, the man of soft negotiations, the man who settled, and treat him as a dead enemy. You do not owe him allegiance. You do not owe him comfort. You owe him only one thing: a swift, final, and irreversible burial. You will experience a strange, unsettling period of grief. This grief is real, but it is necessary. You will mourn the man who was predictable, the man who was easily liked by everyone, the man who caused no friction. This man was comfortable. He was accepted. He was safe. You must grieve him fast because he was keeping you tragically average. The moment you hesitate in your discipline, the moment you allow sentimentality for the past to creep in, you throw a lifeline back to the weak man. Your duty is to recognize that the comfort he represented was a toxic trap. The man who refuses to grow is not avoiding pain. He is choosing the slow, chronic agony of regret and unlived potential. That former version of you was a spiritual vampire, feeding on your time, your energy, and your untapped courage. You must sever the vein immediately. Your final allegiance is to the sovereign man you are becoming, not the comfortable ghost you were. Your focus must be forward, singular, and absolute. You cannot drive a vehicle forward while constantly staring into the rearview mirror of failure and nostalgia. As you approach the summit of this transformation, you will encounter the final test. This is the most dangerous, most intense, and most deceptive phase of the process. The final test is always the loudest. As you begin to implement your standards with consistency, as you begin to deny the old self his accustomed comforts, he will not go quietly. He will launch his most aggressive, most deceptive counterattack. The scream of the old self. Your old self will shriek at you. This shriek will not sound like a simple desire for distraction. It will sound like reason. It will whisper, "You've done enough today. You deserve a rest. You've earned this pause." Don't be too hard on yourself. Moderation is key. This is the desperate lie of a dying entity. The magnification of fatigue. Your physical and mental fatigue will magnify 1,000 times. You will feel drained, hollow, and absolutely convinced that you have nothing left to give. This fatigue is not a biological reality. It is a psychological weapon deployed by the old self to make you quit one step from the finish line. The pressure to conform. The pressure from your external world, friends, family, colleagues, to revert to the predictable average version of you will mount severely. They relied on your weakness. Your sudden strength makes them uncomfortable. They will demand that you be normal. Their discomfort is the precise measure of your correct evolution. This intensification of suffering is not a sign to quit. It is a signal. It means the old you is on psychological life support, and you hold the plug. This is the moment of execution. One more final push, one more furious refusal to give in, one more hour of unrewarded solitary action, and he is gone forever. You will have replaced him. You must push through fatigue with fury. You must rise in pain with precision. You must move in fear with faith. You do not need hope. Hope is passive. It waits for a favorable outcome. You require faith. Faith is the strategic, absolute conviction in the outcome of your process. Faith here is not spiritual. It is operationally, militarily strategic. It is the belief, built on the solid rock of your daily actions and non-negotiable standards, that if you keep showing up, keep enforcing the discipline, and keep killing off what no longer belongs, then the life you seek will be forced to manifest. It will not be given to you. It will not be gifted to you. It will be dragged, fought, and pulled into existence by the man who violently outgrew every weaker version of himself and never once looked back. This is the engineering of your destiny. You are not praying for success. You are building a system that guarantees it. Every hour of deep work, every denied impulse, every early morning rise, these are all inputs into a machine whose output is predictable success. You make the outcome inevitable by mastering the process. The man who expects success is the man who engineered the conditions for success. The power of irreversibility. Your goal is not temporary improvement. It is irreversible transformation. You must commit to a system so robust that reversing it becomes harder than maintaining it. The standards must become so deeply integrated that the thought of reverting to the old habits, the lies, the laziness, the softness, becomes physically repulsive. Your new identity must become the most valuable asset you own, and you must protect it with the ferocity of a wild animal. The final truth of this transition is that you are replacing a man of potential with a man of fulfillment. Potential is cheap. Fulfillment requires the full price of discipline. The man you are replacing was a man of words. The man you are building is a man of undeniable action. This man does not chase success. He attracts it. Because he is success in motion. Understand this final, absolute, uncompromising truth. There is no finish line. There is no utopian, perfect, final, static version of the man you are becoming. The man who seeks a finish line is the man who fears the process. The sovereign man understands that the journey is the reward, because outgrowing the old you is not a phase you complete and then move past. It is not a project that you put on a shelf. It is the lifestyle you adopt for eternity. It is a daily death of the weaker, softer, more compliant self, and a daily resurrection of the stronger, more focused, more capable self. It is a relentless, structural commitment, etched in the very architecture of your schedule, to never retreat, never repeat, never recycle the flawed, contemptible decisions of the man you were yesterday. This is a vow etched in the heat of your focus and the cold of your solitude that says, I will never be caught living as a shadow of my true potential ever, ever again. This vow is not merely emotional, it is strategic, it is structural. It is built into your schedule, your habits, your non-negotiables, and it pays you in the only currency that truly matters: unshakable peace, sovereign power, and undeniable presence. The old self was a passenger, a passive observer in his own life, reacting to external stimuli, driven by the impulses of others. He was merely a vehicle for his emotions. The new man is the general. He is the commander of his destiny, the sovereign ruler of his attention, the executioner of his own weaknesses. You are no longer a passenger. You have seized the wheel, and with that power comes the absolute, non-negotiable responsibility to execute. The general does not ask for consensus. He demands compliance. Your army is your set of habits. Your strategy is your daily schedule. Your enemy is the voice of comfort. You must lead your life like a general commands an army, with absolute clarity, relentless presence, and intentional, necessary violence against any thought, habit, or relationship that dares to threaten the mission. the power of earned presence. You walk taller, you speak clearer, you lead stronger, not because you read a self-help book, but because you earned it. You paid the full price. You earned it in sweat, in silence, in the agonizing solitude of your own deep work. You earned it by forcing yourself, through intentional violence, to abandon what was safe, what was soft, and what was familiar. The weight you once carried, the weight of guilt, regret, and unfulfilled potential, is gone, replaced by the powerful weight of self-respect. This is the difference between wishing for power and embodying it. The master of impulses. The sovereign man is not tempted by petty impulses. He mastered them. He treats his impulses as the chaotic signals of the old, defeated self. He does not suppress them. He redirects them. He transforms the impulse to distract into the impulse to create. He transforms the impulse to consume into the impulse to produce. He has weaponized his own internal energy, turning weakness into fuel. This mastery over internal chaos is the highest form of personal power. The man you have become, the result of this surgical, brutal, and necessary transformation, no longer operates on hope. He operates on certainty. His success is not accidental. It is engineered. He has built a system so robust, a set of standards so high, that failure is simply mathematically impossible. This man you have built, brick by disciplined brick, is now fundamentally different. You do not simply have better habits. You do not simply have a stronger mind. You do not simply have more discipline. You have become someone else entirely. You have changed your psychological operating system, and that sovereign person. He does not chase success. He does not pursue money. He does not beg for opportunity. He attracts it, because he is success in motion. He is a magnet for the things that serve his mission, because his internal world, his thoughts, his standards, his actions, are perfectly aligned with his external ambition. The universe rewards clarity and execution. The man who knows exactly what he wants and who acts with absolute daily purpose to get it will always find the world stepping aside for him. This final defining realization is the greatest reward. You have killed every excuse. You have killed every weak identity. You have killed every self-limiting belief. What remains is a man who cannot be broken, who cannot be stopped, who cannot be ignored. The old version of you is dead forever. Now you lead. Now you execute. Now you achieve. You are the unstoppable man. If this message resonates with the core of the man you are destined to be, if the truth of this war has ignited a fire you cannot extinguish, then you have two immediate final actions to take. Action 1. Execute today. Do not wait until the video ends. Do not wait until you have finished scrolling. Stand up now. Go to the singular, most difficult task you have been avoiding. Execute the standard. Begin the process of permanent structural subtraction immediately. The time for analysis is over. The time for action is now. Action 2. Join the ranks. This journey is solitary, but the mindset is shared. If you are committed to the relentless pursuit of the sovereign self, to the daily death of the weak man, and to the eternal enforcement of your highest standards, then subscribe to this channel. Like this video to affirm your vow. Comment the single word execution below as a public non-negotiable declaration of war against your past self. The old version of you is dead. Now, rise up and build. Today, without pause, without excuses. The war is now. The ascent is non-negotiable. Go.